I will be talking to Korey Harris very soon here, and got some interesting topics to me, I should say. His story is amazing. We only have about 25 minutes to talk through it, but I'll be asking him primarily about workouts and how they're going to shift. He's the director of pro at TSF. He's coached in Beijing, led player development for the Beijing Association. He's coached with / under Stefan Marbury, worked with Gannon Baker, ran a lot of his skill clinics in the upstate, in the southeast region. Has student of the game, his own training business, has worked with TSF, been the general manager of Shoot 360. He's done a lot. So the timeline for me, I'll have to learn from him about what he's got going on right now. I know he's heavy with TSF. I know he's heavy with Student of the Game, LLC. Side note from him, and I'll try to fill you guys in on some of the things that may come up, maybe they won't come up, but from Atlanta, Georgia, did not play high school basketball. You got to think, man, he didn't play any high school basketball or middle school basketball, made it to the last cut every single year, but just did not make it. In the midst of that, was training himself, was trying to make the team, and started a training business, went to Hofstra, dropped out of Hofstra, flunked out. I mean, he had guys like Charles Jenkins, some pretty good players there too. Didn't make it there, but man, just never stopped going and is doing some very impressive things. And I'll let him tell you about a lot of the crazy stuff that he has going on, that he's gone through as well. Starting his training business, what stood out to me, man, he was fixing roofs, flipping burgers, working in crawl spaces. I'm sure he has some other jobs there too that he hasn't mentioned. And also training on top of that. I had a teammate in college who when I said I was interviewing Korey, he said, yeah, he's trained my cousins before. He's been in the Atlanta product, born and raised. I've got some other trainees that I've worked with that Korey's been in touch with and made highlight tapes for, and has trained. And man, his reach spans so much. And when you hear him talk, you'll feel the energy. You'll feel why so many coaches respect him. And he's going to give us advice, back to the main point of the conversation, advice on how to shift our workouts whenever it gets to the season time for basketball players. What some of those misconceptions are that we have as coaches, as player development coaches, as trainers, and how to make that flip, and how to have a successful in-season training experience with your athletes. Another thing too that I'm interested in asking him is about being a general manager at Shoot 360. I mean, if you haven't seen what's going on, guys? Shoot 360 is very, very successful. They have locations started in Vancouver, locations in Georgia, many locations in California. They're going to be in Colorado. They're franchising many, many more spots, and he's been the general manager there. I'm not sure if he still is at the moment. Maybe he is, but again, when I talk to him, we're going to be picking up on what he's got going on right now. Funny enough, in 2000 and I believe it was 2012, he started training in the same location that we're actually training in right now, as he was working with Gannon Baker. And I'm also going to be asking about balancing, profit with philanthropy. Of course, he's a general manager, has his own training business, knowledgeable when it comes to business, but also he talks about poverty alleviation and the Atlanta Youth Project, and seeing what it was like to grow up in a certain socioeconomic status. And I'm curious to know how he balances the profitability needed for business with the philanthropy of helping with poverty alleviation, helping out with some of these other social issues that he is passionate about. So excited about all that stuff too. We're going to have some snippets of this conversation. So if you guys can't stick around the entire time, no worries. Apologies for the bad lighting, but we're going to have a good conversation nonetheless. Watching from the Philippines, what's going on? Mabuhay? I do not know any Tagalog, but I would like to learn. I want to be a polyglot. So appreciate you for checking in and doing this. It's been a while, man. Hope everything's been going well for you. Reed, what's going on, my man? So something that and you got some players here watching too. So Korey is absolutely, man. Absolutely. Hope to see you at the next one. What Korey is very knowledgeable in, one as a player too. My man, Ant's been a while, brother. Korey didn't play any high school basketball and he went to, I think he went to Beijing, then came back to play 5 years of college basketball. He's played on the NAIA D3 level. I think he played on the D2 level. Led his team to a national championship experience. It's the story is very, very interesting. But until Korey gets here, I do want to talk about some things that I'm learning right now. So what I'm on is, as we transition, kids are back in school, some books that I'm starting to pick up on. Atomic Habits right here. And kind of cheesy. I got a dollar bill as a bookmark. Some people may think that's cheesy, but that's another thing I'm going to talk to Korey about. The first question I want to ask him is, when he stopped caring about what people thought about him. Right, and just me and mentioning that comment right there, I'm like, I got a dollar bill as a bookmark. Why do I care about what other people think about it? But here's Korey right here. I'm gonna get him to wave, and then I'm gonna request him to join us right here. I'm about to show my inexperience with this. There we go. Korey, what's going on?
Myson, what's going on with you, brother?
Man, I'm great. I appreciate you taking time to do this. Can you hear me? All good with the audio? I heard you, but I couldn't hear you afterwards. There we go. It's coming back in.
All right, great. I was trying to get my AirPods locked in so you don't hear all this background noise.
Understood. Appreciate that. Man, let's jump in. Like right in. I know you're a fan of that.
For sure. Let's get it going.
I talked to one of my teammates in college, and I've talked to a few people recently like that also know you, and just is your reach is beyond what I even thought. I even realized. I I want to ask you though, completely off that, if there was a time that you can remember or a date, when did you really stop caring about what people thought about you? I looked at your college
Whew.
and I saw how you introduced it. And in the caption, you said, this has been a couple of seasons that I thought about just not caring about what people think. And you
Mhm.
got on camera, started talking. When did
Yeah,
that for you?
man, great question. I've never had anybody ask me that question. I would say when it comes to when I stopped caring, it's been in phases. So obviously, as a kid, your world is based around like your friend groups, high school, things like that. Whoever it is you're growing up around in your atmosphere near you, right? It's based on proximity. So very young, I didn't care what anybody thought about me there, like in that area, right? I got to the point where it was like, I feel like I'm a leader. I feel like, I'm somebody who has something to offer. And, if anybody's going to control like what I do on a daily basis, even just as a kid, it's going to be me outside of, obviously my mother. So, but then you fast forward, you grow older and you go to another realm. It could be high school to college. It could be college to your work environment. It could be your marriage. It could be whatever. Each time I would go to a different realm, whether in my basketball career or just life in general, it would again have to go back to the bottom of the totem pole, so to speak, for me psychologically, where I start off caring what everyone thinks because I start off wanting to be influential, wanting to be liked, wanting to be appreciated, wanting to be accepted. And then after a while of bumping your head and figuring out that that's not like going to sustain you, that's not going to bring you peace, that's not going to ever bring you happiness, you then again make the same decision you once made the same way on the prior level that you were at. So, like I said, as a youth, it just came when obviously, you get in a couple fights, you get your nose bloodied, and then you realize like there was nothing to be scared of. And then when you go to high school, it's once you get to like your sophomore or junior year and you realize like all this stuff is petty. Like none of this stuff matters. I'm not going to know any of these people once I graduate. Then once you start hooping in college, it's after you sat on the bench your first season, your second season. And then now you have the opportunity. For me, it was when I transferred from my JUCO to my 4 year, realized that a lot of the stuff we were doing was for popularity or it was just like, clout or comparisons to our teammates and the people around us. And none of that stuff was going to get me where I needed to go. So I need to separate myself. Within my skill training business, it was once I realized like, man, I don't know enough. So, you start out working with kids or you're working locally and you're just comparing yourself to other trainers, other coaches around you. And so that's your focus. But then you're like, this is not even like, this is just Atlanta. This isn't the world. Like, there's basketball outside of here. Let me see what other people are doing. Let me see how other coaches develop their players. And then you realize, like, a lot of the people around you are small minded. They're not going anywhere. So if I'm going to excel, if I'm going to get to where I need to be, like, then I'm going to have to be different. And so I was willing to be laughed at when I walked into rec centers, and I'm not playing an open gym at 19, 20 years old, or I'm not worried about what everyone else is doing. I don't have a social life, and I'm just locked in on my craft. I'm watching Better Basketball by Rick Torbett, or I'm going to, I knew that was going to like flip a switch in somebody's mind. But I'm going to coaching clinics. I'm spending my money on things that don't give me temporary satisfaction right now. They're like seeds that I'm planting for the future. So I can't give you a specific date to when it's just like, yeah, at this point, this moment in time, like, my life changed and I never cared about what anyone thought. I would say it happens within every phase. Like, again, I'm going to go to another level, right? I'm going to be on somebody else's bench, or I'm going to be at the bottom of the totem pole serving another man's vision. And then again, I'm going to have to, within myself, remind myself, like, you know what? It's not for me to care if they respect me or not. Like, that'll come. It's not going it's not going to matter in 10 years what these people said about me. Like, it happens for all of us over and over again. You never master it. You just have to remind yourself sometimes, because you might lose your way a little bit. Myson, can you hear me, bro? I'm so sorry. I lost my
No,
audio.
no, you good.
Okay.
That's on me. That's on me. I was muting, so I didn't interrupt.
Ah,
Um, Because I want you to keep talking. I'll just ask a question and get out the way. I'll remember to unmute again. But it makes me think about you. You said you learn it in different phases, and you have to remind yourself. It's like it's always been there in each phase, but you have to work on that skill. Kind of like when you broke your forearm or your wrist, and you had to go from left-handed to right-handed. It's like, oh, I can use my right hand. It was always there. I just gotta like hone in on it. I gotta actually spend more time, get the reps. And it sounds like that's what you're kind of doing in a psychological, mental level with different phases that you have. What are you? I remember at one point, man, you were flipping burgers. You said you flipped burgers, you fixed roofs, you were in crawl spaces. You probably had other jobs too. Maybe you were still with the AYP, but
yeah.
what are you doing now? Like, what are you spending most of your time on? Is it with TSF? Is it with Student of the Game? How do you really hone in on your craft at this point in time in your career?
Yeah. So, like, the past, I want to say 6 to 8 months of this year have been a lot of working with the Skill Factory, as the director of pro. So, we came out of the summer where we had a great group of kids, great group of young men, excuse me, who were preparing, to reach for their dreams. When it came to making the NBA draft, all of them got jobs, whether it be two-way contracts, Exhibit 10s, and overseas opportunities. So we're super excited about that. But that was a lot of work. That was a lot of, getting up 6, 7 a.m. with some of these guys, and then they're coming back to you in the middle of the day, and then again in the evening. And then also, I've been managing the Shoot 360 ATL location that I'm sitting in now since last September, from when I came home from coaching internationally. So I try my best to, still learn the game, and that's a little hard when your day is filled with just pouring out. But I still get it in, whether that be visiting, another coach's practices. I'm very fortunate to have AAU, post grad, high school organizations that use our gym, and I'm not above just like sitting and watching, right, or just asking that coach a couple questions. I'm still a student of the game. That's why I named my company that. So watching basketball. My wife and I are basketball junkies. She hoops, so WNBA games are on every night, all the way up through the finals. And I'm not watching it just as a fan. I'm watching it to see what they run in ATOs. I'm watching Becky Hammond to see how she, does her substitution packages and what she's doing differently than Bill Laimbeer, just to always get an understanding and a grasp of like where the game is going. Now I'm blessed and I have the opportunity, just because I've been in the game for a little bit of time now, where I can just call certain people and ask them their philosophies, right? So I spend some of my mornings literally just asking coaches like how they view player development, doing what we're doing right now, just not recording it, not sharing it with the entire world, but just taking notes so that maybe I have something to go share with some of my players. And then the last way I would say that I'm always learning is when you get the opportunity to work with high level players, a lot of times it serves you more than it serves them. So, and I don't mean that from like the social media standpoint or the clout. I mean, if I'm in the gym with Kevin Herter, like I'm asking Kevin Herter, what has he done up to this point? Because he was good before I ever met him. You know what I mean? Like how did he get from A to B? What are some of his philosophies when it comes to developing his shot? I picked his brain and we sat together for 45 minutes after our first couple of sessions, just because I wanted to know what makes a professional a professional. Like he was the one who told me there's a difference between an NBA player and a pro, right? There's a difference between a guy who's going to play 8 to 10 years in the league and a guy who's just going to get drafted or get a contract and that's it after 2-3 seasons. He broke down how he works on his game as an NBA wing. The things that help him transition from college to the pro ranks. When I work with Mike Scott, there are days where, because we see each other 5-6 days a week, I'll say, hey, Mike, you lead the workout today. And now I'm asking him, like, well, where did you get that from? He's like, oh, Darvin Ham, who's now the head coach of the LA Lakers, was one of my assistant coaches, back in Washington or Philly or Atlanta or wherever he was. And it's like, now I'm getting lessons from Darvin Ham. I've never met him. You know what I mean? So it's an honor to have been in this game even just 1 year, let alone 15. And you find ways to constantly steal from other people, adopt things from other people. You're never gonna, if your eyes are open, you're never gonna like even go for a walk within the game of basketball without stumbling upon something, right? It's like finding loose change. Like if you just have your eyes open, it's waiting on you.
Man, that's well said. So, in regards to you're in Shoot 360 right now, you learn from other people, players, organizations, coaches. What have you learned as you become the GM for the last year that you could possibly gift or give to other basketball trainers in terms of managing business? And the next question after that, I'm going to ask about how you balance the need for profitability with philanthropy. No, poverty alleviation is something I really care about, and I'm very interested in that as well, and giving back. But you got to be profitable before philanthropic. So,
Right.
advice can you give out there to any business owners who have basketball training businesses?
Yeah, the first thing I would say, and the biggest lesson I've learned from one of our majority owners here, Frank Cicchino, is you got to be organized. If you're going to do any type of work within the basketball business industry, if you're providing a service, a product, you got to be organized. And the people who aren't are typically the people that they may be good at what they do, they're good at their craft, or they have something to offer the world or their community, but it never will be scalable, excuse me. It will never last long. It will never get to a certain level because they just aren't organized. I see it every single day. AAU coaches with, 100 kids in the gym, but they don't have a way to stay in contact with the parents, or they don't have a way to put out fires or to make sure that they're tracking, the monies that's coming in to pay for, the camps or the tournaments they're going to play in. If it's skill development coaches, they don't do a good job of managing the schedules of all their workout sessions. They don't, know how to make sure that they're meeting the specific needs of all their players, because they don't take notes, on what they're doing with those players in those said workouts. They don't film anything, so they can't market themselves. They don't have any media to expose themselves, to other potential clients. So just working as the GM here for the past year has shown me that if you're organized, things flow. And if you create systems where you don't have to do all of the work, or you partner with other people who have said systems, then now you can focus on what you do. And so that's helped me as a skill development coach, as a coach on a staff, just to have a system, have a routine, find ways to make your work smarter, right? So that you don't have to work as hard. And then, of course, when you ask questions about, being profitable so that you can then become philanthropic, I would say that those systems help you to then become profitable. But you always have to be thinking about what's next. You could be, in the middle of a summer where you've got 50 to 100 clients on a monthly basis, but that summer's going to be over soon. Like you have to get to the point of seeing the seasons before they come, whether it be, fall is coming up and then maybe things are going to slow down for you. How are you going to translate or transfer your skills, your product, your services to that slow period? Do you do film breakdowns? Do you go to your players' games and evaluate them? Do you do consultations? You have to have something else in your tool belt. You can't just be a one-trick pony. And if you are, that's fine. But like, understand that other branches always come from the tree. So, I started off just being a skills coach, but there's so many other services I can provide because I'm a skills coach. And I didn't know that when I was younger. I thought, oh, I'm just a trainer. And it's like, no, like you also can find a way to help players with their nutrition or gain weight or lose weight, or, you know what I mean? So without going too deep, hopefully that helps somebody.
Sure. And last question for you. What would you suggest in terms of adding to their tool belt, to their bag as skill development coaches in general? Can you give us one misconception out of the five or maybe six? I'm sure the list has grown since you put it out. Could you give us at least one misconception, another misconception, and then tell everybody where they can go to get more information on how to really thrive, just have a much more efficient, effective in-season training for their athletes?
For sure, for sure. So the biggest lesson I learned, and it is a part of the six that I was speaking on and sharing with people earlier, but I've experienced it on an even deeper level since sharing it, and that's understanding player roles. Like once you understand that the game, I know everyone's saying it's positionless, but that the game and its roles within it, the positions have morphed, then you become a better coach. So like it's no more 1 through 5, like point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. There's a floor general, there's a high volume or high usage guard. You've got 3 and D guys, utility players. You've got, traditional bigs. You've got point forwards. You've got team engines. You've got, you know what I mean? Like there's so many different types of players or archetypes out there. And so the better you get at understanding the player that you're working with, the player you're looking at, and how they fit within the team that they're playing for, now your skill training or the work that you do with them takes better shape because it fits the actual needs of that player and the said team that they're trying to fit within. So, if you don't understand that, then you're just going to try to like work with every guard the same. Every guard doesn't need to be thinking the same thing when they come off of a ball screen, because some guards can't score. Like they're not going to ever give you 30. They're never going to be that type of guy that's going to shoot 20 shots a game. That's just not how they're wired. Chris Paul is a floor general. He's never going to be a team's high usage or high volume scorer. Like it's just not happening. But that's why him and Devin Booker are so good together. So if I had to work with two guards like that at the same time, I might give Chris different instructions than I give Devin, even though they're both guards and we're both working on situationally the same things. So, of course, you can find more about that on YouTube. If anyone wants that specific link, it's a G League coach. Forgot his name. I apologize. I didn't know you were going to ask me this question, but he did a great like hour-long convo.
Hey Corey, it went off.
Say
You
it
said that
again.
one more time after you said G League. It cut
Yeah.
out the audio.
My bad, my bad. So yeah, a great G League coach. I can't remember his name, but he did a great job of basically through a PowerPoint presentation. I think it was with basketball immersion, breaking down these player archetypes, these roles, and how they all fit to create better team efficiency ratings. Right. So like he showed you team by team by team who had the better lineups based on these new player positions and how we should be defining them in 2022. So if anybody wants that particular YouTube video, they can always just hit me up. I'll shoot it to you, whether it be by DM. You can email me at sogtrainingco@gmail.com. And any other way that you want to get in contact with me, I'm on Twitter, Facebook. I just won't probably give you my number because, I need my peace and my privacy. But yeah, Myson, I'll send it to you as well, and you can share it with any other coaches that are watching.
I'll be glad, man. I also want to share basketballcoachingconsulting.com too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But definitely, because I actually just opted into it, and I'm about to be going through and just really I like how you just jump right into it and making sure I'm actually doing the stuff in there, not just getting something just to get it. I appreciate you making that available. So basketballcoachingconsulting.com is
Yes,
the
sir.
right? And then we can go there and look to see how we can do all those things you mentioned and have some other misconceptions to tackle too. But I appreciate you making time, man. Like you said, it was quick. I got to do a part two to this, and I'm willing and available for it. So I'll reach out to you for this part two.
Oh man, I love it. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, we'll be dropping much more content on that website you just listed, basketballcoachingconsultant.com. We're also going to be updating the transition Instagram page and dropping free content on there because we got a lot of things coming. November 1st is our official launch date where the entire curriculum will be available for anybody who wants to see it, who wants to purchase. But yeah, man, let's do it. Let's do a part two, part three if we can. Let's get it
Hey,
going.
I'm with it. Appreciate you, Corey. I'll talk
All
to
right,
you
my
later.
brother. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.